Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's training. Tonight we're going to be talking about fructose, about a form of sugar that comes from fruit and that kind of stuff, and is hidden in a lot of foods and causes a lot of problems. So, my promise today is I'm going to tell you 9 things, 9 reasons why you should cut out fructose, or certainly moderate it, reduce it, that kind of stuff. So, as per usual, I'm just gonna give it 20, 30 seconds or whatever for people to come online and to join us, and then we're going to crack straight on into it. I'm going to start off with any questions that you've got. So if you've got any questions, things that have cropped up from today, which is pretty much your first day being sugar-free, or maybe you've downloaded the, let me just increase the size here. Maybe you've downloaded the Sweet Success information, like instructional guide or something like that, and you've just got questions about it. So whatever those questions are, you can stick them in. All right, so that's that. So we'll start off with a little bit of Q&A, and then we'll do a little bit of training on fructose. Okay, I've got a few slides as per usual. I don't see this being any longer than 45 minutes, because I appreciate we're in the middle of people's evenings and you may have come back from work or whatever. Obviously, I did a poll to see what time was best, and the majority of people chose 6 o'clock. So, we'll keep it at 6 o'clock if it works for everybody. I don't really want to be doing a poll every day of the time. I want to have something pretty standard for everybody so people kind of know. So yeah, just keep adding your questions. Some people are putting the questions in already. Some people saying hi. Deb saying hi. How you doing, Deb? Hope you're well. Lynn saying hi. Facebook user saying hi. Like I said, I'm using this software called StreamYard. If you don't give permission for StreamYard to use your Facebook ID, then I don't know who it is. So if you haven't done that, then just put your name on the end of the comment and I'll kind of know who it is that said that. Kathy's saying hi. How you doing, Kathy? Another Facebooker saying hi. Plenty of eyes on the end. Good. Lynn. Okay, so we're getting into the comments, the questions a little bit there. I'll get into them in a second. Hello from a Facebook user. Deb's saying hi. Yeah, so we're getting a few people on. Like I said, if you've got questions, things that you want to clear up, then put them in the comments, and we'll work through them for about 10-15 minutes before we kind of get into it. That means that if you don't want to hang around for the training, then you can duck out and go and do your stuff, and then maybe catch up with this later on. But at least you've had your questions answered. Okay, so that's that. So Claire Bear saying hi. How you doing, Claire? Good start for you today. And Monica's saying hi as well. How you doing? Okay, couple of questions then. So Lynn has asked, can I use soya milk? All right. So for this challenge, fundamentally, you've got to live with you. So it's your choices. How many times have been told that you can eat this, you can't eat that, and it's never really worked. All right. It sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but it's not. Hear me out. Think back to Adam and Eve. The whole story revolved around do not eat the apple, and we all know how that went down. Fundamentally, whenever you see something and it's like, well, best example, wet paint, don't touch. What do you want to do? You want to touch it, and it's exactly the same when it says, okay, don't eat this food. You just want to eat it. You see it as like a little bit of a treat, a cheat, whatever it is. So I want to kind of break away from that. Now, the key thing is, if you're asking a question about something, then there is some reason for that. Therefore, immediately you should trigger an alarm bell that you might want to kind of moderate it. And this is exactly the case for your soya milk. Okay, so with soya milk, any kind of white foods is usually kind of contains sugars. Soya milk's a little bit different. However, it does come from like a starchy palm. We're going to talk about starches a little bit later on. For now, Lynn, I think it's just a case of moderating it. Okay, so just reduce it. I don't know how much of it you are drinking. Okay, but it's definitely something for you to moderate. Hopefully that answers your question and gives you a bit of an idea. Are oats okay from a Facebook user there? Again, they are okay if you want to continue eating them. You might want to reduce them. The thing about oats is there's 2 guidelines I want to give you. The first one is if it's like simply oats, cheap as anything, ready break style, cheap, crappy thing, right? They are going to be incredibly glycemic. And what we mean by that is a term we're going to use a lot in this training, is they are going to elevate blood sugar really, really intensely, really give you a real boost in blood sugar. Okay. So what you want to do, the rule is you want to go for as organic and as higher quality as possible in regards to your oats. That way you're going to reduce some of the glycemic effect of the food. The other thing to bear in mind, the second rule for oats, is what's usually the problem with oats is what you have with it. Okay. So think about, some people will put like low-fat Greek yogurt in there. Some people will put like a pureed fruit in there. Some people put like mixed berries, golden syrup on top. You know what I mean? There's just so many things that usually come with it. So I really want you to kind of think about, what you're adding with it, and maybe those are the things that you want to kind of regulate and moderate. The other thing to bear in mind is that, and we're going to do a bit of work on this again, is that we can, if I know oats are really easy for people to have for breakfast. If they're in a bit of a rush, they're quite easy to make, they're quite easy to digest, they're easy to get down, they're much, much better than regular cereals and that kind of stuff. But it still will have a glycemic effect in your body. Now, one of the ways that you can slow that down is just by incorporating maybe half a scoop of like a diet protein powder, or half a dozen almonds. Okay. And what you've done there by adding protein, adding the nuts, is you've introduced some fats and you've introduced some protein, and that will naturally slow down the release of sugar into the bloodstream. Okay. So bear that in mind. I've got my little dog just coming in. She's probably going to want to get in my lap in a minute. So we'll see. So again, one of those things that you should moderate. If it's just, I know a lot of people eat oats and porridge and that kind of stuff because it's just so quick and easy, either on the go, just before they commute, or when they get to work or whatever. So, might just want to reduce them down, but really think about the quality of the oats, but also what you're having with it. And that's really important. So again, whoever that is, I don't know who it is. Thanks for your question. Hopefully that answers it. Please let me know. By the way, I didn't do the, can everybody hear me okay? So I'm presuming, because nobody said they can't, that you can hear me okay. Come on then. Come on. Hope you come. Come on. Here she is. There's my little dog. Say hello, Dottie. This is Dottie. That's it now. She'll probably have to sit on my lap for about 30 minutes. Okay, so like I said, any more questions, just fire them through, and then we're going to get onto the fructose. A couple of things that I just want to point out before we get into the training. I showed you this earlier on. Hang on, let me just increase the size of the screen. I showed you this earlier on. It's the Sweet Success. It's the instruction book for this challenge. Okay, so make sure you've downloaded that. Now, there's loads of different. There's a few tips and what have you in there, but there's also some foods to moderate, foods to cut out, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so make sure you get that. Where you can get that from, if I just show you a second. Hello, Dottie. Hang on a minute. Share screen. Chrome tab. Here we go. So where you get that from is when you come to the sugar-free group, okay, come to this one here, files, click on files, and then you will find the Sweet Success there. So you can either view it online, download it and print it out, or whatever you want, okay? So that's that. Make sure you've got that. Something else to do as well. If I just bring that back up. Something else for you to do as well. Couple of things. Couple of little secret weapons that I always use when I'm starting to cut out sugar and really work on my eating. One of the things is L-Glutamine. Okay, so this is L-Glutamine. I can share a link to this L-Glutamine. I just got this off Amazon. You know, it's about £7 or £8. I'll share a link for that. These are really, really good for staving off sugar cravings and hunger pangs and that kind of stuff. And one of the top tips for this is it comes in a liquid form. You can get powdered stuff. And I think there's even a liquid form. I always get the capsules because when cravings are at their highest, you crack it open and put it under your tongue, and that just seems to really help stave off any sugar cravings. Okay, so L-Glutamine is the first tip. The next tip, if you have like a real craving, you've tried a bit of L-Glutamine, you're drinking loads of water, all right, but you have really, really struggled with cravings, these Hartley's 10 cal jellies are really, really good. There's very, very little to no sugar in it. It's marked up as like 10 calories inside the whole jelly. Now I've done my own testing on my continuous glucose monitor of the effect that these have on blood, and for me they have like zero effect on blood. So you can kind of chug one of them, eat one of them or whatever, and it just helps with those sugar cravings and that kind of stuff. So cracking on. Yeah, I can hear you. Hello Dottie from Abby. Hello Abby. She's definitely going to be the star of the show, obviously. Here we go. Hello Dottie from Auntie Claire Bear. For God's sake. How do we get the Sweet Success download, Deb? So I described that earlier on. If you found that, let me know, or have a look after you've watched this video. If you're still struggling, message me and I'll send you a copy. Next one, Julia. I get confused with the different oils. The ones in the list you sent out today are all okay, or are there different grades? I use almond oil for cooking, but people tell me to go cold pressed olive oil, or does it matter? Right, oils. If we was completely away from the sugar-free challenge, I could really dive into oils quite in depth, and there are problems with a lot of different types of oils when it comes to like cooking and eating and all this kind of stuff. Now, what I would say for you is, stick to your almond oil. Personally, I think it was a much better form of oil than olive oil, which can go rancid pretty quick. It can go off pretty quick. So cold pressed olive oil, brilliant, until it starts to go rancid, and then you can start getting free radicals in the body and all this kind of stuff. It's just nasty. Your almond oil will just last longer, and nutritionally, will do just as good a job. Do you cook in almond oil or not? If not, if you do, then let me know. And does it matter? So when in regards to does it matter or not? It really depends on kind of where you are nutritionally. Now, what I talk to a lot of people about when it comes to cleaning out their eating is really focusing on the big hitters. I don't know where you are. I don't know where people are on their nutritional journey, but is choosing between almond oil and olive oil the right next step for you, or is there a load of other crap or bad foods in there that we should work on clearing out rather than concentrating on that? So hopefully you'll kind of guess what I mean there. But almond oil is a phenomenal oil to be. Oh yeah, so you've said that I use almond oil for cooking, but people tell me to cold pressed olive oil. So in regards to all those oils, all of them will have like a lower burning, like heating temperature than something like a tallow or like a meat based, an animal based fat. Okay, so again, I don't want to get into that too much in this part of the training. You're definitely on the right track. Best thing is don't get it too hot, and you should be fine. And almond oil I'll probably have to look into that. I would think olive oil would be better. Almond oil would be better for cooking than olive oil, just because of what happens when you get it to a high temperature. So hopefully that answers your question. I've not tried it yet, but avocado oil is supposed to be good. Yeah, it's really good. Same again though, any of those kind of plant-based oils, you can run into problems when you get the temperature too hot. If you're having them on salads and that kind of stuff, fine. But if you start to cook with it, it can have it can turn into like a hydrogenated fat, which is the real nasty type of fat that you really want to kind of cut down on. A lot of other crap first. Good. So thanks, Greg, from Julia. Good. Glad that answered your questions. Okay. So that's a couple of questions sort of ticked off for now. If you've got more, just keep them coming through. And if they're relevant, I'll answer them there and then. If not, I'll kind of spend 5 minutes at the end to make sure that your questions are answered. All right. So keep firing them through. All right. So we've done a little brochure. I've talked about L-Glutamine. Again, I said I'll share a link after this. In fact, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it after this, and then I'm not kind of slowing things down a little bit. Where if you wanted to get it from Amazon, then you could order it, and it's best to kind of have some. The reason why I like these little packets is it's quite thin. I can just chuck them in my gym bag, and it's there. I've got it to hand. So if you're out and about and you start getting sugar cravings and really struggling, which is often the case, because hunger and cravings can be quite subjective. They can be, they can be dictated by the environment or the people you're with or other triggers. When you go to certain places and all that kind of stuff. So it's good just to have them to hand. So if you do want to get some ahead of time, then that's where they are. If you get your supplements from a different company, different source or whatever, L-Glutamine, you can't really go wrong with it. It's not something like fish oils where you really want to get the right amount of DHA and DH. You know what I'm trying to say. So, you can't really go wrong with it. So just get yourself some of that. Okay, so moving on. In regards to our live trainings, we're going to talk about fructose. Obviously, fructose is the sugar that you would find in fruit. Okay, and when you look at the slide on the screen, I mean, what do you think? You got all those lovely colours, you got all those lovely fruits, and you would kind of think pretty healthy. And it's one of the first big steps, isn't it, to sorting out your eating, swapping your sugar, your chocolate or sweets or something like that for fruit, which is healthier. And then the government obviously have this campaign where it's like 5 a day, encouraging you to get 5 pieces of or portions of fruit and veg a day, to make sure you're getting the right amount of vitamins and minerals and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of think fruit's good, and in a lot of regards, fruit is great. There is, different fruits have different glycemic effects on the body, but, let's not worry about that right now. Fundamentally, why I want you to think about reducing fructose is not necessarily the stuff that you're eating in whole form. It's added sugar, added fructose to other foods. Okay. Now, our intake of fructose has gone up significantly in the last 20 years. Okay. I think it's about 29%, something like that. We're eating 29% more fructose, yet our intake of fruit has actually stayed the same. So how can our fructose be going up, but the intake of fruit has stayed the same? Well, the reason for that is, like I said before, is food companies put a lot of fructose into the food that we eat, because if you read the packet, imagine it, only natural sugars. Well, that's great, but just because it's natural sugar doesn't mean, it doesn't mean you can just eat as much as you want, or it's not going to have like an effect on you, or it's not a really crap form of natural sugar, like high fructose corn syrup or something like that. So with all that being said, I kind of just want to crack on. I promised you 9 facts, really, of why you might want to cut them down. Okay, so the first thing then is that fructose is not processed in the body like regular sugars. Pretty much every other sugar is absorbed into the body. Okay, we kind of eat it, we consume it, and then the body starts to break it down. It goes straight into the bloodstream, and then we can just start using it as energy, or any excess can be processed by the liver and turned into body fat, and then stored in the fat cells around the body and all that kind of stuff. Now, fructose is different. It has to be metabolized by the liver. Okay, so when you eat fructose, it's got to go through, it's got to pass through the liver. And because of that, it can cause all sorts of problems if you're eating it in an excess. Okay. So, and because like we don't use it as ready energy like even sucrose, table sugar, then we end up storing it as body fat. So that's the first thing. Because you're putting a lot of work on your liver if you're eating fructose to a high level, then it can cause a lot of damage to your liver, and also increase your insulin resistance. I'm pretty sure you know what insulin resistance is. It's basically the point at which the body goes, you know what, you're not listening to the signals that I'm sending out through insulin, therefore I'm going to ignore it. And then the body starts to just release sugar energy back into the bloodstream. Okay, it just ignores the insulin signals that are sent out in the body. When insulin is triggered, it's telling the body to store excess energy, get it out of the bloodstream, stick it in the fat so it's away from everything else. When the body starts to ignore that, it just starts releasing blood sugar sugar back into the blood. Okay, and that's why when we start getting like problems with diabetes, and I think in ancient times, maybe in the Roman times, that they called diabetes honey wee or something like that, whatever the Latin honeyus weeus, whatever it is, because you just leach this sweet, sugary fluid into through your kidneys and all that, and then you end up peeing it out because there's just so much sugar pumping around your body. So that's that. It has the same effect on the liver as alcohol. Alcohol, the name for alcohol is ethanol. I want you to be really aware of certain endings to words like ol, alcohol, ethanol, sorbitol, erythritol. There's just like a load of different like food ingredients that end in ol, and that signifies a sugar. Same with O's, fructose, sucrose, glucose, maltodextrose. There's just any OSE is usually a sugar. And same with A's, it's either a sugar or a sweetener. Okay, so just kind of be aware of that. Also, it reacts with proteins and polyunsaturated fats in our bodies. So basically, when proteins and fats mix with sugar, it creates what's called AGEs, advanced glycation end products, okay, which I always kind of struggle to say, especially when my mouth's getting a little bit dry. AGEs, which, are real nasties that kind of float around in the bloodstream and causes all sorts of problems, especially inflammation. Now, everybody needs a bit of inflammation. Everybody needs, little bits of inflammation to run, for the body to run, but an excess of inflammation can cause a lot of problems. Okay, and these AGEs will definitely increase the amount of inflammation you've got in your body, as well as other chronic diseases. Let me just have a little sip of water. Oops, drop the lid. Okay, next one then. It can also increase uric acid. Okay, uric acid causes all sorts of problems in the body, like it'll cause kidney stones to form, gallstones, gout is a real common thing if you're high in uric acid, and also hypertension, basically high blood pressure. Okay, so it's just something that you need to kind of keep at a minimum, really. So and a lot of fructose will do this. Someone I know drinks a lot of fruit-based fizzy soda. I won't kind of say the name, and is getting investigated for kidney stones. And she was like, "Well, I've got to have some tests to see if I've got kidney stones." And that, I'm pretty sure you will have with the amount of this drink that you've drunk consistently for many, many years. Fructose rapidly causes leptin resistance. So leptin is a hormone that controls your appetite and metabolism to an extent, okay, in order for you to maintain a normal weight. There is a series of messages constantly going on in the body through hormones and neurotransmitters, one of which is leptin and ghrelin. Ghrelin kind of tells the body when it's hungry. Leptin tells the body when it's full. Now, if we mess around with that leptin response, then we never feel full, so we just keep overeating and overeating and overeating. And a lot like being insulin resistant, there's a saying in the body that what we persist, the body will resist. And eventually the body just gives up trying to act on the leptin response, and we just tend to overeat more and more and more. And a big part of this challenge, as you get through and you get into it like 7, 8, maybe 9, 10 days, then your leptin and your leptin response in the body and your insulin response in the body will start to become more in tune, and your appetite will drop. Okay, I know you might be experiencing what we think is hunger right now, and having bouts of hunger and sugar cravings and all that kind of stuff, but it will settle down. So you've just got to remember that it just takes a bit of time for the body to kind of reset itself. For some people that are incredibly leptin resistant, it can actually take weeks and weeks, but that's the worst case scenario. So hang in there, and it will kind of reset. It can play a part in other metabolic syndromes like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, which is why we're cutting out this sugar for now. And also cancer cells thrive and proliferate very well with fructose as their energy source. They just run really well at it, with it. So any way that we can starve cancer cells from energy, the better, So remember that. Excess fructose also affects brain functioning, especially relates to appetite regulation, like I said, with leptin and that kind of stuff. And in the brackets there, it says also been shown to impair memory in rats. I don't know kind of how they tested that. But, and I know we're not rats, we're humans, we've got slightly different makeup, but, we've got to be aware of it. It could be affecting our brain function and all that kind of stuff. And then the final one is that excess fructose can create a gut flora imbalance. Specifically, you can end up with like an overgrowth of gut flora, which, that can itself become like, what do they call it? Like it keeps on going, a perpetual problem where we have an overgrowth of flora that encourages sugar cravings, telling someone to get more sugar. We have an overgrowth of flora, more sugar cravings, and it just keeps going round and round and round. Okay, so the gut flora that I'm talking about, candida, it sends out little chemicals which creates these sugar cravings, because fundamentally it likes to live on sugars and on fructose especially. So the more that we can reduce it, the more we're going to reduce those cravings. Now, hopefully you can kind of see that as this challenge goes on and you clean out your eating of sugar more and more, the more that all these things are going to become balanced. And the easier it kind of gets. We've just got to get through this first bit. Now, if you're going cold turkey, then it should happen pretty quick, maybe up to 2 weeks at the most. If you're doing the kind of, gradually reduce it, like taper and then transition, it could take a little bit longer. Okay, so that's that. Right, what's your thoughts on that? Anything that really kind of strikes home? Anything that you've experienced in the past, perhaps, or any comments that you may have on that? We'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so a couple of things. Foods high in added fructose include sauces. Now, sauces you sort of think will only have a little bit, so it's not that much of an issue. However, we're eating more and more sauces. We usually eat a lot of sauce, one for the taste and the sugar, but also because it speeds up digestion. And a big part of modern day eating is a lot of digestion has taken place outside the body. If you had something that was quite dry, you'd normally have to chew that, get a bit of saliva in there, so it's easier to swallow and digest. But if you whack a load of sauce on it, all of a sudden you can swallow that pretty much without any kind of chewing. All right, so we're eating more and more sauces, especially the youngsters. It's really, really shocking. And a lot of these sauces are really high in fructose, because fructose is really cheap. It's really, really cheap, and it's also really, really strong. So like a 10 milligrams of high fructose corn syrup is much, much sweeter than like sucrose. So that's why food companies use it. Salad dressings, again, really high in sugars. Sugar drinks, obviously, if you start looking at your drinks, you might see that you've got like fruit-based sugars in there and that kind of stuff. Colas, really, really high in fructose. A lot of yogurts are they're enhanced with like fructose and to make them be sweeter and taste better, especially if they've had a lot of fat stripped out of it. Baked goods, obviously, if you start thinking about some of the cakes and that kind of stuff that you might have eaten yesterday and before, then lots of fructose in there. And fast foods again, because it's really cheap. It really is cheap. And then foods naturally rich in fructose, things like honey, molasses, agave, dried fruits, and fruit juices. Okay, so there's some of the things that you kind of want to be looking at and going, maybe when I cleaned out the house yesterday, I cleaned out the fridge, I didn't really clean out the sauces. Okay, but it's definitely worth kind of having a look at the list of ingredients and kind of seeing, where this is and getting rid of it. So here's a couple of things for today. So I want you to start reading the ingredients of the foods that you eat and all those things that I've mentioned. What you're looking for is any mention of sugar, sucrose, honey, high fructose corn syrup, or sometimes labeled as HFCS. And all those are at least 50% fructose. Okay, so we want to be kind of just be reducing any kind of mention of them. I want you to aim for less than 2% sugar every time you have a meal, a snack, or whatever. Okay, it's going to be quite tough at first whilst you start to find your feet, but we really need to be putting a big hole in the amount of sugar that we consume. Okay, so look for foods that are pretty much 0 to 2% sugar, less than 2 grams per 100 grams or 100 milliliters. The less sugar, the better. Now, reason why I've kind of put that there is because when you're going down the shops and you're buying your food and what have you, some brands will have slightly less sugar than others, okay? Or other types of food will have slightly less sugar than the other type of food. So I want you to just start comparing. And I want you to choose the one that is lowest in the sugar, all right? So whereas before we may have gone based on fat, we'll get the one that's lowest in fat or whatever. But I want you to kind of change that a little bit, because we're concentrating on sugar for this challenge, and any reduction is going to be beneficial. Okay, so think about that. In here it says dairy product sugar is safe. It is generally galactose and has no fructose. We're going to look at the sugar in dairy on another live training, but for now, you can kind of get away with that. But do beware of flavorings and fruit yogurts, which often have a lot of added sugar. Okay, so they're the main tasks for today through this live training. Now we'll kind of open it up to questions. If there's no questions, then we'll kind of call it. Let me know if you've learned anything and what the biggest thing that you've learned from this call is, and then let me know how you're going to kind of implement these things in the next few days, okay? Whilst you're kind of coming up with that, and I know obviously there's always a bit of a delay, we're going to do a little bit of a look forward to tomorrow's training. So tomorrow's training will be on refined sugar, okay? So what we're talking about there is sucrose and table sugar. Now, these are usually the easiest kind of sugar to cut out because it's obviously it's the most obvious. It's the stuff that you put in your tea. It's the stuff you put in your cereals. It's the stuff you add to your baked goods and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do a little bit of training on that. And again, I'll set some tasks on the back of that. So that's a little bit of a look forward. I'm not getting any comments, so I don't know if my signal's dropped out or whatever. So I'll just pad out. And if there isn't any questions, then we'll kind of call it a day. Any recommending on a monitor tool? I'll just spill water down my top like a dick. Here we go. Are you recommending a monitor tool? So there's a couple of different tools that you can use to monitor. For me, I'm using a continuous glucose monitor on the back of my arm, which is just on an app. If you want more information about that, then let me know. and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. The issue with this is it's very much, well, the good thing is that you can track how the food actually responds, how your body responds to the food, because we're all slightly different and different people have different responses, different foods and all this kind of stuff. So I'm using that. However, it's quite pricey. They're about £60 for a sensor, and the sensors last between 14 and 21 days. So that's not for everybody. Other than that, you can keep a little bit of a food diary or something like MyFitnessPal. Or there's a whole load of like keto tracking apps that you might want to use. And the benefit of them is that you can usually sort of scan barcodes and it'll just preload like everything straight into the app, and you can kind of track your sugar like that. The worst case scenario is, just get yourself a pen and paper and just start taking a bit of a log. Maybe even, get yourself a diary and just keep a bit of a log of what you're eating, and fundamentally want to be focusing on that, the amount of sugar that's in the food. So there's a couple of different alternatives for you there. Next one is all makes sense so far. Good, then. Good for you. For blood sugar, I presume that's limited to the monitor. I will try and get some. Sometimes I can get a bit of a discount on monitors just by buying them in bulk. If there's enough people interested, then I will try and get some. If not, you can just get them from the Freestyle Libra website. Just search Google for continuous glucose monitor. The kind of app I use looks it's like a yellow thing. This is the website, so it's like a yellow and white based thing. They do a bit of advertising on TV as well. You don't have to buy the actual monitor because you can just download the free app and then use the free app to monitor it. But you do need to buy the sensors. All right, so that's that. Ruth saying thanks. Good, Ruth. I know you've had a bit of a rocky start. All right, but good news is it can only get better. So just keep pushing on for a little bit better each day. Good work. Kathy saying a great reminder, very useful. Good, all good stuff from Monica. Is Sweetex, etc. Sweetness for hot drinks? And no. Deb, what I want to do, I want to encourage you to try and change your Sweetex for stevia. All right. So just because it's let me just check what I'm not. Yeah, so it's sodium saccharin, which is in Sweetex. Okay, that's just not. It's not great. It's just not a great sweetener. Stevia is very different. All right, it's a very different type of artificial sweetener, and it's much better. So I would recommend that. You can actually get a liquid stevia, I think, which is better still. All right. So if you do need to take a sweetener, then I would swap over to that. Just be aware that just because it's a sweetener, quite often we sort of think, oh, it's a sweetener, calorie free, I can have as much as I want. But, you can't. You do want to be reducing it because some of these sweeteners, the response that is created in the body can up to 1,000 times more powerful than sugar itself. Okay. So now, stevia shouldn't have that effect. Again, it's definitely something to test for yourself. But my own little test that I've done on stevia, I don't eat a lot of artificial sweeteners anyway, but marginal response from stevia. Okay, there's a few other ones as well that you can use. Xylitol is one. Monk fruit, if you want like a natural based artificial sweetener, is monk fruit, dragon fruit. Can't remember which one it is, but there's a few. We're going to do some work on sweeteners in 3 or 4 days. Okay, so in the meantime, reduce your Sweetex, and then if you can switch to like a stevia, then that'll be much better for you. Deb's saying thanks for the info. I think stevia is plant based. That's right. Yeah, it's a plant alcohol. We don't process it as like energy, so we basically just, piss it out. We basically just pass it out. All right. So, whereas the sodium is different. Okay. The Sweetex. Okay. Any other questions? I'll give it another couple of minutes. If no further questions come in, we'll call it a day there. I will keep posting little reminders, little infographics and all that kind of stuff throughout the day. I'll also start with an accountability post tomorrow, so look out for that. I'll just be post saying, check in. Are you still going? How's it going? Any problems and all that? So I'll post that first thing in the morning. Okay, so just check in with that and just let me know how it's going. Sometimes, from being this side of the script, I want to give people as much support and accountability, encouragement as I can. But sometimes if there's nothing coming back, I don't really know where people are at. All right, so bear that in mind and look out for that. Just another comment there from Julia. Thanks, Craig. Still drinking the water that knackers me, Julia. Well as giving up the sugar, of course. I need to learn to love water. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I kind of go for like the sparkling and try and kind of stick to that. It just seems to taste a bit better. Always helps when it's chilled as well. It just seems to taste nicer. But I seem to remember you had a bit of an issue with water last year, didn't you? Was it? I can't remember. All right, cool. Right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll kind of hang around for another minute or two after I've ended this call, see if there are any questions come through, just to catch them up. Other than that, evenings where you're going to struggle, okay? Evenings. So really focus on the evenings, all right? And stay strong. Get some support around you. Speak to your family members and say, I'm serious about this. I'm going to do this. You need to help me, not sabotage me, because you want the health benefits and all that kind of stuff. All right. So until tomorrow, take care.